Our modern Western culture is fundamentally different than the culture we see represented in the Bible. We're separated by time, distance, custom, and structure. In the modern West, we've endowed our governments with considerable responsibility and the power to enact those responsibilities. The government regulates, aids, and protects. Biblical Israel, on the other hand, was a part of the ancient Near East, whose societal structure was based around the family. It was tribal and patriarchal. This means the responsibility for the economic, legal, and physical security of the family was entrusted to the oldest male member of each family. He regulated, aided, and protected. Extended families lived together in order to survive. They would grow their own food in crops and animals. They shared the responsibility of harvest, grinding grain, making clothes, all the daily necessities of life. In Israel, it's believed that multiple individual family homes would be built around a central courtyard, enabling up to 30 close relatives, a patriarch and matriarch, their children and spouses, and their children, to live and work together. And if the family grew too large, it could split and become two family units. And we see this reflected in Genesis, when Lot separates into his own household when his family grew too large to stay with Abram. Now, this arrangement, as well as the physical family itself, was referred to as the father's house, reflecting the responsibility given to and the authority expected from the oldest male member of a house, the father. Now, this makes sense of the custom of the firstborn's inheritance that's also seen in the Bible. The firstborn son of a father would one day become the patriarch, responsible in every way for the survival and morality of his other family members. And this is why the firstborn was given a double inheritance. It wasn't an emotional favor. This practice prepared the son with the physical resources he would need to care for the family. This societal structure also makes sense of why people were identified as the son of their father, as your legal, moral, and social standing depended on him. And he was responsible for your actions, whether good or bad. He had a societal obligation to take care of your needs, to protect you, and to spend family resources if necessary to get you out of trouble. Male members of a household would stay with the family, while women would switch allegiances. When they married, they would integrate into their husband's family, becoming a member of his or his father's house, and therefore her societal and physical protection and moral accountability would be transferred to that patriarch. This system worked for family units, but it did leave some members of society vulnerable, mainly widows, orphans, and divorced women. For women whose husbands divorced them, they would be expected to return to their father's family, and the bride price that her ex-husband had paid to her father or brother would then hypothetically have made up for her financial needs. Foreigners, widows, and orphans were particularly vulnerable in this system. Without a larger safety net of family, they could be left without a means of provision and almost no hope of acquiring provision in the future. Now, these vulnerabilities explain the custom of levirate marriage or brother marriage that we see appear in the Bible. If a woman was widowed without having a child, but was of childbearing age, her dead husband's brother would take her into his household so that she had immediate provision and would have a son with her that would bear his dead brother's name. This ensured that the woman would also have future provision, as that child would inherit their legal father's estate. It also explains the Bible's legislation in the Mosaic Law that is meant to protect the foreigner, widow, and orphan. Without an overseeing state to protect them, they were the most vulnerable of society. How amazing is it that God is identified as their protector? It's also worth noting that just because the Bible shows God working in this type of society doesn't mean that it's endorsing this society. We're not expected to adopt a patriarchal system for our own. God's added legislation of this system in the Law of Moses could be seen as God further limiting this structure. He added his morality to an already existing system. In fact, God contradicting the patriarchal system's expectations is often seen in the Old Testament. God routinely chooses and elevates a younger born over the firstborn. Think Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Ephraim, and David. All of these were those who should not have become leaders within the patriarchal structure. And yet we're told that God sees the heart of mankind, while man only looks at the outside. And he, in these cases and more, he forced this patriarchal society to think and operate outside of its structure. God's not necessarily endorsing the structure, but working despite it, just like he can do for us. Thanks for watching. Click the playlist on screen now to watch more spotlights. And if you want to read the full article, click the link in the description. You can always go to BibleDiscoveryTV.com for more videos, articles, and resources.